Back to go another YouTube video. It's your boy Riot G. Today we're gonna react to Raw 2016 through 2017 was bad. We're gonna react to Raw 2016 through 17 was bad. Let's get right into the video.
Hey, I got her a little.
We have an advertisement to start off. This usually happens. Alright, let's restart.
Guys, wrestling premiere is here. The WWE roster grew exponentially throughout the years of 2012 to 2015, and it also meant fewer opportunities for new and established stars. I like the Attitude Era style of show, but WWE didn't fulfill the potential of that idea, seeing as SmackDown was full of replays and tag team matches. You watch one SmackDown, you watched all of them. It's crazy how stacked the roster was, yet the shows were dull. I have good memories of 2015, but that's nostalgia talking. So whenever I hear someone be like, 2015 was a great year, I just turn sideways. I'm like, actually? Plus, I was loving the matches, but storyline-wise, WWE wasn't doing too well in that regard. The advent of NXT meant that a strong focus was on the new stars. They were churning out plenty of talent until 2016, when the WWE roster became bloated. There was so much going on and so many talent that were getting lost in the shuffle. It was best for the future to establish a new brand split with their own titles. WWE didn't bother trying out the one world title or tag title concept.
Brand split, I think that's when he was talking about as far as when they was doing the drafts and stuff like that.
Like they used to. They went straight for the branded belts. Raw and SmackDown were once again split, with each show getting a set of talent. Raw did get the cruiserweights as an additional package, seeing as the show's
man, 205 Live. Man, what a time. What's your favorite 205 Live superstar? Mine's probably Cedric Alexander. I don't really know.
3 hours, and when we look back on it, this brand split was hyped like crazy. It was,
as I just said, the draft.
It was a hard reset which the WWE needed if they wanted to keep this great roster. You can't just hoard talent and do nothing. A strong focus of the brand split was about the WWE Championship initially. The title was considered the golden prize for both brands, and they were going to do everything in their power to bring the title to said show. And the effort was there for the shows. Both Raw and SmackDown had new intros, presentation all around it, and unlike now, there was a huge cultural difference between both shows. You had a different vibe between them. For one, Raw felt like the now, the guys that were going to seize the opportunity in their primes and at their best, whereas SmackDown was full of veterans and very young talent, much younger than those on Raw. Mick Foley was the Raw general manager, and Stephanie McMahon was the commissioner of the show. The commentary, of course, featured Michael Cole, but he was also joined by Byron Saxton and the debuting Corey Graves. Corey Graves in his early days was like a breath of fresh air. I heard so much good from him during this time period, but that would fade away. I remember people were likening him to Bobby the Brain Heenan, and this would sound like the most outrageous thing in history of said today. You guys know
they compared him to Bobby the Brain Heenan? Oh.
SpongeBob sound effects when they turn their eyes like, that's how you would react if you heard this right now. But back then, he was only a year into commentary and sounded like a veteran. It's still on my mind how ridiculous that was to be said. One aspect of Raw that was interesting at the time was the new camera angles. Raw had these cool-ass angles with the drones and post-match interviews. It was tiny, and yes, half of the interviews would go south, but it did so much to establish that this show was much different to what it was previously. New theme songs for Raw. They had this bumper theme for the woman called Dreams That I Have. Stories of Greatness is another one, which is very nostalgic if you actually go listen to.
What's your favorite Raw theme song? I was always more of a fan of SmackDown's themes more. As far as like the opening, you know, the opener theme. What do y'all enjoy more, the Raw theme songs or the SmackDown theme songs? And when I mean theme songs, I'm talking about the intro to the show.
It'll take you back to 2016-17 if we think about all the storylines in no time. And of course, the main theme song of the show, Enemies by Shinedown, which of course fit in line with this gritty new era of Raw. And coupled with that industrial identity, it made for great visuals and sounds. That sounds like a ChatGPT sentence, but to put it simply, Raw was well aligned when it came to the image of its show. What about the characters and stories? Well, the lower card was the big weak spot of this show compared to SmackDown. I personally believe that if a lower card prospers, it bodes well for the rest of the show because people are already tuning in for the big stars. But if these guys who aren't challenging for titles and losing constantly involved in a revolving door of stories, it's never a bad thing. They did that Heath Slater free agent story with him constantly getting his ass beat. What is this? This is an injustice. Then he'd turn around and take a big boot or something. At one point, he tried to reunite 3MB only to get turned down by the returning Jinder Mahal, who stole the contract under him. No honor among thieves. In Jinder, he didn't really do much. I remember he was associated with Rusev for a moment. The Shining Stars were constantly promoting the good district of Puerto Rico, and I actually do understand their obsession with promoting the place. I'm actually inclined to visit. R-Truth and Goldust were doing some things, but all in all,
that's the Lost Collins, aka Primo Epico, aka Los Matadores.
With promoting the place, I'm actually inclined to visit. R-Truth and Goldust were doing some things, but all in all, it's impossible to have a long discussion about the lower card scene because it didn't involve much. I almost forgot, Darren Young was doing this Make Darren Young Great Again thing, which wasn't much.
Oh man, Darren Young and Bob Backlund. This is when he won this like little battle royal on Raw. I remember that.
Bob Backlund was by his side screaming, "Yeah, we're gonna do Darren Young. He's gonna be the star. We're gonna make him great again," or something like that. And it's like they did a random generator and suddenly landed on this of all things. Who knows? Maybe if they spin the wheel again, we'd get Truth and Backlund. Although that sounds better than this. And I almost forgot about this while I was working on this video. Titus O'Neil was the most lower card guy out of all of these guys. There's this one episode of Raw where they gave him the mic and he just spoke about how the primetime players sucked. He was the real star of the team, and it's one of the worst promos you'll ever watch. Listen, Titus O'Neil, he ain't so bad when it comes to backstage interviews and stuff like that.
Sure, at least the primetime players, they won the tag team gold. That's really about it. I think they was trying to push Darren Young at one point to win, I think, like the IC top. I'm gonna just look it up.
Putting him on a live microphone on Monday night.
I'm gonna look it up on my phone.
Raw, which is the flagship show of the World Wrestling Entertainment, WWE. It's like making a toddler cross the street. They might get past it, probably, but chances are they're gonna get run over. And that's what happened here. Who scripted this? This doesn't sound real. He's complaining, yapping, stuttering over his words, and I'm thinking to myself, bro, surely they know his ability. It's like they wanted to feed him to the wolves because of the whole ladies first incident from February with Vince. I don't know. What's the...
Okay, I know that Darren Young was pushed to win the IC title, I think, at one point. I could be wrong. I'm just thinking about that. But I do know they won the tag gold. And it says Titus O'Neil won the 24/7 title.
A quote again, whether it be one of them broke brothers from Bushwick or one of them ippity hipsters from Williamsburg. We're drifting far away, but it's that funny. It really is. It's just one of those. In some ways, the 24/7 championship could have been utilized here. I actually think it would have gone down better if it was brought in 2016. Everything was fresh and it was a chance to do new things alongside that freshness of Monday Night Raw. One guy that seemed like he would get lost in the shuffle with the brand split was Braun Strowman. Strowman was a part of the Wyatt family and we didn't know much about it.
See, like, getting the 24/7 title off WWE shop, like, that'll be so nice, but it's like, do they? I don't even know if they still sell that title up there.
Character wasn't as fleshed out as Roman.
And it ain't like I'm finna buy it anyway. I mean, I could, but I'm not finna buy a replica title. I think I have one replica title, only one. That's the World Heavyweight Championship, the gold one.
And especially Harper. And naturally, you'd expect him to be the typical big guy, but he slowly became a notable part of the show, and from out of nowhere, you were seeing him face the top talent. Strowman had the skill, his size was incredibly vast compared to the rest of the guys, and he actually had more charisma than he had shown previously. Every week, he'd smash something.
He was going through local competitors. He fought Kalisto in a dumpster match, lost that match. He was in a rivalry with Roman Reigns. He was destroying him. Braun Strowman, he had a little push. They ain't never make him, well, they did make him Universal Champion later.
Enhancement talent into dust, growl. Then this made its way to the bigger talent. And Strowman offered more than squash matches. He did so well for himself that he was feuding with Roman Reigns by the time that this iteration of the brand split ended, and he was over. He was one of the most over wrestlers on the entire Raw roster. We could sum it up with one quote: "I'm not finished with you." Memorable moment. Strowman, you really looked like a future star of the WWE. The tag team division is one that I personally feel should have gone down better. SmackDown's was just way more interesting, but here on Raw, they still had the New Day, who were nearing a potential record-setting tag title reign. The trio were still having great matches and all, but it felt like the ideas were disappearing after constant...
I know I keep pausing the video. I used to actually have that cereal. I had the cereal. I bought it from FYE in the mall. I had cereal. I had that cereal before. That's off topic. Let's continue. Let's continue.
It's tough to reinvent.
Let's continue the video.
the wheel, but at the same time, WWE really wanted them to break the demolition record, while at the same time giving this incredible team a memorable achievement. The Good Brothers honestly didn't interest me at all, and I hate to say it because they have great personalities outside the ring, but anytime they came out, I skipped the show. And that's because I wasn't watching Raw live. Come to think about it, the July 25th, 2016 episode is probably the only episode I didn't skip a second of, and I'll talk about that later. Enzo and Cass were massively popular, and for good reason. You know, they'd be coming out, loads of charisma from one of the guys. Big Cass was basically like Billy Gunn. Enzo was the most charismatic character on Raw. He'd sell like a champ, especially if he was up against a bigger opponent.
And I like their heel turn, like Big Cass turning on Enzo. Like, I like the whole build up. I mean, the storyline was kind of played out, but you guys let me know if y'all like that, you know, heel turn.
Brock Lesnar sent him to the 6th layer of hell, where he started hearing whatever by Our Lady Peace blaring for some reason. It cannot be overstated just how much it was entertaining to see him thrown around like a rag doll. Even though he's a face, you see some segment and think, it's not exactly uncalled for. Like, this guy was trying to get with Lana, and this segment was one where everyone thought, oh, WWE TV 14, oh my god. It was never coming. Until you see Lana becoming pregnant with a member of the roster not named Rusev, then we could talk. Although they were pretty close to doing that with the Bobby Lashley story. This segment was so good. Rusev obliterated this guy, and I wouldn't even say he bitched him. He just murdered him, ate him for dinner, and sent him out.
Yeah, because Enzo, man, he was selling. He was getting beat up by everybody. It was just like, bro.
His ass outside to the hotel room. It was embarrassing. And I'll talk about Rusev in a little, but with Enzo and Cass, you couldn't help but think that the heat Enzo had affected their push, because there's almost no reason for them to not challenge for the tag team titles
like,
as seriously as
he was a good seller. I can say that. He was good on the mic. But let's continue the video.
Other competitors. Overall, I think the tag team division needed some more pizzazz, and one of my favorite additions to the tag division was a mid-card rivalry turned tag team, Sheamus and Cesaro. These two at the time were considered the type of guys that were 2 wins away from the world title. Cesaro was that Bond character, although unfortunately, he didn't have much of a character. But he was a great performer, and 2016 is probably his best year in the company. Maybe 15. Sheamus was champion not long ago, although with the way he fell down the card, you'd think it was an alternate universe. And I just want to take this time to trash the League of Nations. It sounds like a summit of political leaders, and I don't rate everyone in the group, but there's no reason that they could have been a dominant force. Instead, Roman Reigns cooked them 1-on-1, 3-on-1, 5-on-1, and the group just flat out became the League of Channel Changers. But anyways, Sheamus and Cesaro had a great...
The League of Nations.
Best of 7 series. It's hard to pull off, but they did. And even though the reward was a world title shot, neither man won the final match, and they were forced to coexist. Ha! Tried trope, right? Well, it sounds like a tried and repetitive story. The way they did it this time around was a bit different. They already got the crowd invested in both men with their big matches. Both guys started to respect each other for their performances, and thus, the bar at a bar with Tessa Blanchard and others was created. They were actually the ones who ended the New Day's long title reign, and all in all, that was probably the best thing to happen to the tag team division, which is the bar becoming a tag team. So the tag title division did have talent by the end of it, but I don't think it's...
And it's like the bar, like, they had their match, right? It was like a best 2 out of 3. Yeah, y'all remember this too. It was a best 2 out of 3. They just kept fighting each other. Sheamus beat Cesaro, I think, once or twice, and I know Cesaro like beat him a good once or twice. And then they just, after the match, they just became a tag team. It was, yeah.
All they could out of the lemon like SmackDown, because SmackDown had less talent but still pulled off more from the Usos and American Alpha. And a new tag team would be added to the Raw roster right at the end, the Hardy Boys. One of the most surprising moments of the 2010s. I remember I skipped through WrestleMania a little only to see Matt and Jeff Hardy. I was stunned. I'm like, what the hell, they're back? It was odd. It was just flat out weird to see him in that era of WWE, in that ring with WrestleMania 33. All that was just strange. It took some time to get used to it. With the huge success of the Cruiserweight Classic, WWE brought back the Cruiserweights and gave them
I'm glad that dang near everybody returned to the company. I'm glad.
A spot on Raw. And unfortunately, that novelty of the Cruiserweights disappeared. With the tournament, they wrestled to the best of their ability and had a you had to be there vibe. Full Sail's going insane on a weekly basis with that tournament, and to me, it's top 10 best things that the WWE did in the past decade. It was so perfect. 10 out of 10. And I don't, listen, I'm not throwing 10 out of 10s out there often. Nor am I some figure of authority where it's like, if you hear my opinion, it matters, all that. But personally, the Cruiserweight Classic was a 10 out of 10. But all that was missing were certain Cruiserweights, but those guys couldn't make it.
I've never, like, sat down and watched the Cruiserweight Classic, but I've watched 205 competitors go at it and stuff like that.
For reasons. With this version, the 205 guys had their own show on Tuesday and some moments on Raw. Some of it was good, but it wasn't fleshed out and felt like it couldn't be its own thing. If I had to explain it simply, you couldn't immerse yourself into the Cruiserweight world as you did with the classic. 205 Live though, you can, but on Raw, not so much. Noam Dark constantly talking about Alicia Fox will always be a memorable moment for me, but I liked Rich Swann at the time. TJ Perkins makes me turn the other way when he does that dab. If it's not Paul Pogba, I don't want to see you doing a dab, and even then I kind of cringe at it. Tozawa, Menelik were great talent, but ultimately the 205 thing faded. But then came Neville, and Neville wasn't really doing much, but him turning...
Neville was like the king of the 205. Like he returned, took over, and all that.
Heel becoming this huge bully in the division was much needed. They even involved Austin Aries, an old name of the past. That guy I forgot existed.
Austin Theories, he's fire. They ain't do much with him in WWE, but in TNA, yeah.
This is unfortunately in Neville's title run. So yeah, I think 205 Live had good matches, but I just wasn't invested in it personally. As it relates to the whole thing, I feel like a major issue with the 205 Live guys is that while they were cruiserweights, they didn't interact a lot with the other guys in the roster or try to wrestle them or stuff like that. And for me personally, not talking about you guys, I think that kind of affects my enjoyment of it. Raw's mid-card scene is very interesting because it was filled with talent that weren't mid-card. The only guy who was around the mid-card scene that was a full-on mid-carder was Rusev, and you could add Sami Zayn. Rusev in particular was a guy who they didn't know what to do with after his big push 2 years ago. He was getting thrown around by Roman Reigns and got his title taken away from him. They were trying to do this great reset with the Reigns, which they couldn't fully follow through with. And all I remember at this point is Rusev with this distinctive beard, always angry for some stupid mid-card reason. Typical. He was talented, but that push to actually get him over was never going to materialize. With Sami Zayn, he was doing much better, even without the title. I really loved Zayn at the time because his underdog thing was fresh on the main roster. And with these actual multi-time champions, it had the potential to top that NXT story. He had this story where he was obsessed with beating Braun Strowman, but every week fell onto his ass. Even then, it didn't stop him. Week after week, he was trying his best, and he did win a match against him, but that's based on lasting the 10-minute time limit. There was also this hilarious segment where Mick Foley said he traded Zayn to SmackDown for Eva Marie. All that work in your career only to be compared with Eva Marie, who, no offense to her, probably didn't know what the letters WWE stood for. It was a ploy by Foley to motivate him, but that moment really stood out for me from this era of Raw. We traded you for Eva Marie. And then Zayn turns to a Karen, or for WWE's purposes, a Stephanie McMahon. He's doing all the facial expressions and redefined the word dramatic. It was more than that. He was more angry as opposed to entitled after I rewatched it. But yeah, the mid-card scene was actually dry. I wouldn't even say dry. It was actually empty for the most part because the US title was used for the main eventers. The women's division of Raw was dominated by 4 names. Sasha Banks, actually WWE...
Yeah, because around this time with Sasha Banks, she was at least like 2 to 4 time women's champion. Like she was putting on good matches. She was pushed around this time. She was losing the belt, but she always gained it back or something like that.
To want me to start this sentence like this, it was dominated by Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Nia Jax. The core of this division was the Charlotte and Banks feud. At times, this was the best thing on Raw. They had plenty of good matches, and while some might see hot potato with the title, I see it as 2 tremendous athletes getting the best.
Yeah, see, like he just said, we're playing hot potato, like losing, winning, and all that.
The other on any given day. Now, if it was them trading titles with half the roster, then yes, I understand. Sasha and Charlotte had this chip on their shoulder to be a defining feud of that decade, and you saw it in their performances. That first Raw of the new era featured a wonderful match between them, and it also boded well for the future of the division. It felt like it was in more than good hands. But the issue with this is that it also set a precedent for Sasha Banks. She never had an actual title reign during this entire time. Not a single one as long as Charlotte's, and we know the bookers love heel champions, but Sasha never even tested other challengers, and that's the issue with it. They had the first women's Hell in a Cell match, which delivered, Iron Women's match, but the one match that will always stand out was the one on the November 28, 2016 episode of Raw. A full-on war between both women.
We need some more Iron Man matches. We need more of those to come back
to prove who was the best in the WWE. One big issue I had with this feud is that Ric Flair and Charlotte's relationship took up a big part of it, and it was so bad. It's so dumb. Like, if they were gonna do this, they could have done some elaborate setup. It wasn't even like Flair faked all of this for his daughter. She just disowned him, and it was supposed to feel massive on their part. Oh my god, the daughter's betraying him. But it's like, oh, okay. Flair's crying for the 17,000th time. He's about to reach his divorce number, but it's not a big deal. Like, it wasn't special. Who cares? Nia Jax was pushed decently in NXT, but then they took things further here, making her the destroyer of the Raw brand. She was mostly doing her own thing until the winter, when they started turning her into a bigger deal, but her real push wouldn't come until a year later. You guys remember when Dana Brooke used to be with Charlotte?
fucking advertisements, bro. I'm not. I ain't even mean to cuss, but like, bro, this is me. This is annoying.
Alina teasers. They were teasing those for weeks on end before having her actually return and revert to Emma. Bizarre stuff. They didn't have any plans, if I remember correctly. The biggest disappointment in the women's division was unfortunately Bayley. Signs that this character wasn't going to work as her NXT run were becoming apparent. Her character wasn't presented in the best way, and she bombed on the mic, which wasn't going to bode well for her future. Even then, she had a huge...
Saying one cuss word, that's not going to really ruin my channel, right? Nah. It's just one cuss word. I didn't say two. I didn't use that much explicit language, you know.
Moment in February of 2017, winning the Raw Women's Championship. Feel good moment, you deserve it, all that stuff, but that title reign didn't fulfill its potential. Regardless though, Bayley did walk out of WrestleMania as champion, but then the superstar shakeup brought Alexa Bliss, who basically killed the Hugger character. The main event scene was dominated by 4 men: Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins. The funny part about these 4 is that they were also trying to go after the United States Championship. The brand split though in the beginning had a much different idea about the main event scene. Finn Balor was a first round pick. Back then, he was a big deal coming out of NXT. WWE valued him from his work as Prince Devitt in New Japan and made him...
See, bro, we're gonna stop the video right here. This is probably about to be the best part right here, because they better talk about Kevin Owens as champion, him being with Chris Jericho. Y'all already know. Y'all already know. Roman Reigns, Chris Jericho, Kevin Owens, all of that. Then he about to talk about Finn Balor, him making his debut, him and his rivalry with Seth, him being the first Universal Champion. I don't even gotta finish this video. But yeah, that was Raw 2016-17 was bad. Tell me what you guys want to see next in the comments down below. I got more videos coming. And yeah, Uriah out.